So Iqbal, our story basically looked at the three options before India, the legal route, the military route, and of course the covert route, which Vikram Sood mentioned. Now Aditya said that he couldn't imagine all these things happening, abrogation of Article 370, it was almost unheard of. The speed with which events have taken place in Kashmir, does that lead you to believe that there could be a roadmap for the reintegration of PoK as well at some point?
I think we should be worried about getting back the areas in eastern Ladakh that the Chinese occupied post 2020.
Right.
Because the Chinese have moved their soldiers into Gilgit-Baltistan, and they are building these two dams there, the Dimer Basha Dam
Yes.
and the Bundi Dam, at a cost of $28 billion, which is going to supply 90% of the electricity to northern China. So when they're building these dams and they are going to be generating 40 gigawatt hours of electricity
Yeah.
for northern China and to pump the gas and oil from Gwadar all the way up into Xinjiang into northern China, do you think the Chinese will ever let anybody touch it? I mean, they will defend it as if it was their own territory, because this whole region is now a quasi-state, as Aditya said.
Absolutely.
It's a province of China.
It's a
And the
province of China,
Chinese
and China has kind of displaced, from what you're saying, China seems to have displaced Pakistan in the Kashmir dispute, and that would be the
Pakistan is like a local chowkidar over there. The Chinese are the rulers, the zamindars of that area. So you are going to have to deal with the Chinese. You're
right
already dealing with them on Eastern Ladakh. So do
on
you want to
Eastern
open
Ladakh.
another front? That's a
Right.
political decision.
That's a political decision and it's a dilemma. And like Aditya said, I mean, who knows in the future how things could play out. But Aditya, those 24 seats in the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly, which is been set aside for people from PoK, at what stage does this become really attractive for the people of PoK to kind of vote to join Indian Kashmir?
It's difficult to say because this is a symbolic gesture. It has been happening for a long time, and this time around again these seats have been kept. My own opinion is that people who have exiled from PoK and maybe a little more could be accommodated, who are settled elsewhere and want to come to India, and those people should be given these seats.
Right.
And there should be at least, if not 24, at least some of them, because they are Haqdar, they are very much it's like their bunyadi haq.
You mean refugees displaced from PoK would actually get those 24 seats?
They won't, but I believe they should.
Right.
Ideally, because these seats will anyways lie vacant whenever
Yes.
the assembly is in functional, and
Right.
we'll have a government in power. Perhaps after the Supreme Court order, there could be elections next year. At
Yeah.
least there will be the general elections and thereafter the assembly
course.
elections. But
Right.
clearly, India needs to do much more, because we've been quoting this 94 resolution for a very long time.
Yeah.
We've been saying that PoK is ours. There have been several statements from various prime ministers, ministers,
Yeah.
the foreign ministry. But I think a little more activity by the foreign ministry, by the government is important. We are, of course, witnessing Pakistan crumbling
Yeah.
economically, politically, and the security situation also going down the drain.
Right.
But ultimately, there needs to be more, push to retain PoK.
Yeah, there needs to be more push, Iqbal, and well, like you were saying that China has kind of become the the chowkidar or the zamindar, the zamindar in Pakistan. So you're actually looking at a state that can't fail now because it's being backed. It's got the sovereign guarantee of the Chinese. But going back into history, Iqbal, the plebiscite now in a few days from now, about 20 days from now, you're looking at the 75th anniversary of the plebiscite, where India took the matter to the United Nations, and we're calling it the Nehru's Himalayan blunder. How big a strategic blunder was this 75 years later? How badly has it affected our chances on the global stage?
It was a monumental blunder, because the fact of the matter was this, that the then government of India, which of newly independent India, was heavily influenced by the British and heavily influenced by Lord Mountbatten. So I think that the biggest villain in this plot was the Prime Minister of Britain, Mr. Attlee, and Lord Mountbatten, because they ensured that this legacy of bitterness and violence would continue, would get in fact institutionalized. So we are in fact experiencing till today the consequences of those decisions at that point of time. I don't think anybody ever envisaged the extent to which this would continue to harm our polity for so many years. and will continue to do so. I don't see any end to it in at least in my lifetime.
Right, that's a very dark assessment. In fact, our story says exactly the same. Nehru's Himalayan blunder. Let's watch.
Long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny.
If Nehruji had treated Jammu and Kashmir like any other princely states of that time, then Kashmir would have been like any other state, peacefully, fully united.
After 70 years, you have nothing to do except to criticize Jawaharlal Nehru.
There was a dying need on the part of Mr. Nehru to emerge as an international statesman. And in the process, national interest was completely staked and compromised.
By debunking my facts and figures, they are actually disowning Nehruji.
So Aditya, Nehru's Himalayan blunder 75 years ago. Do you see the road ahead, the next 25 years, India in 2049, on a much better wicket when it comes to Kashmir?
I am hopeful. As I said, 5th August 2019 for me was that turning point because personally I had believed that BJP almost has given up. The Congress had given up years ago.
Right.
And although there is a lot of rhetoric, there are a lot of political statements that are being made inside the parliament, outside in rallies, but I don't think this is achievable. But the political arithmetic, the security calculations were made in such a way that this unprecedented step happened. I believe that slowly and steadily, not just the Indian Army and the security forces, but politically also, there will be rebalancing that will happen in Jammu and Kashmir, and particularly the regional political parties will have to give away this aspect of autonomy or self-determination or 370, whatever they call it, and look towards a new direction. A new politics will have to germinate and take seeds and come up in Kashmir. That is the only way forward. Otherwise, India is not going to look the other way. Home Minister Amit Shah already yesterday in the parliament earlier, he had attacked Nehru, and now he said that we are making a separate prison at a cost of 105 crores for terrorists, and no stone pelters will be given any government jobs. So these are strong steps that are being taken. In the last 4 years, I haven't seen any massive stone pelting taking place like it used to. Even terror attacks have reduced drastically. The infiltration will carry on. Rajouri is becoming a new headache for the security forces. But I believe there's a stronger grip politically and for the security forces as well. And that will only increase in the next many years and decades. But just like Mr. Iqbal pointed out, I think China is the imminent threat that we have realized only after Galwan. There's a new realization, there's a new policy in place, but I think there's again much more strategically that needs to be done on the China front.
What, Iqbal, what do you see the new government doing? I mean, I'm saying a new government because this government is literally at the end of its term. But next year when the new government takes over, what do you think are going to be the priorities when it comes to the frontiers with China and Pakistan, specifically in Kashmir?
I feel, my view is that as the Pakistani state starts deteriorating, it is going to become an autonomous republic of China. I mean, my view is that by 2049, Pakistan will be the Pakistan Autonomous Republic of Greater China. So the question of actually getting any territory back from them means getting the territory back from the Chinese. Now, if the Chinese are going to dominate our economy, we have a very unfavorable balance of trade running into hundreds of billions of dollars. How are we going to stand up to them unless the government undertakes a serious policy perspective and says that this is how we are going to advance industrially and militarily to be able to secure our borders? Otherwise, without that, thinking through this over a long-term time frame that goes beyond 25, 30 years, that's the only way to ensure that we remain protected and our interests remain protected.
Right,
News9 Plus. Download now.